It's another Thunder Thursday on News OK Live. I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, joined here by our Thunder coverage team, at least three-quarters of it, from his hotel room. Where are you, Anthony?
I'm at my house in overlooking OKC, 13th floor, Regency, right near the bombing memorial. Great view.
High above Oklahoma City. Thunder beat writer Anthony Slater from his home in Norman, Oklahoma, columnist Barry Trammell, and from the newsroom right below me here at 9000 North Broadway, columnist Jenny Carlson. Thunder Thursdays are brought to you by our good friends at Wheeler Chevrolet. Take that drive down I-40. Save yourself some time and money. Guys, the Oklahoma City Thunder comes home limping 3-10. Anthony, Darnell's coming back. We'll start with you. Here's true or false. Things are not going to get any more than incrementally better until Durant and Westbrook return.
I mean, true. It's right now at this point. I mean, it's just trying to hold on. It's really what it's always been about. But just holding on until they get back. They've been in games. You know, if Reggie Jackson hits a shot at the end of the Detroit game, they have another win. And, you know, if a couple things go differently at the end of the Houston game, they have another win. They're in most games. They weren't really, you know, they're kind of in it last night, but not really. They're basically 0-2 on this road trip pretty easily. But yeah, it's just about trying to get as many wins as possible so Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook don't need to win every single game when they get back.
Barry, the Thunder, of course, lose last night in Denver. Sebastian Telfair goes 7 for 7. When Telfair goes 7 for 7 for this team, you'd think you win by 40. It was just enough for them to hang on long enough to get disappointed again. Do you think things could get any better between now and the time Durant and Westbrook return?
No. I mean, they're going to win a few games, I think, but we're sort of figuring out what they are, which is a team that can't score, and when it happens to score, it forgets to play defense. So it's been a very underwhelming. Early in the process, we thought, hey, these guys are tough. They're hanging in. They're playing good. They're playing valiantly. But what we figured out is, they're just not very good. It's an indictment of the system. It's an indictment of the talent level below the big guys, and it's an indictment of Scotty Brooks. So when Durant and Westbrook get back, everything will be good again. But there are some underlying problems that Sam Presti's going to have to address.
I don't know that I necessarily agree too much about that. I mean, I know what he's saying, but you rip, two major superstars off a team that understandably relies on two major superstars. This is going to happen.
Jenny, I'll bring you in on this. Other teams manage to hold serve a lot better when their superstars are out, some intentionally. I refer, of course, to the San Antonio Spurs, who it seems like once a week set out two of their three best players and then go beat a team that they're going to have to face in the finals or the Western Conference Finals. Yet this team cannot clearly survive or definitely can't thrive without Durant and Westbrook. Is this an indictment of Scott Brooks in some way?
I don't think so. I tend to lean towards what Anthony said. I mean, I think now granted, if you were going to be without Westbrook and Durant, because they got traded or because they left, well, then you probably better change your system if these are the cards you've got dealt. But I don't know that you can indict the system if it was set up to have, certain types of players, and all of a sudden, not only do you rip the two best ones out of it, but you rip a bunch of other guys out of it too. I mean, I think the volume of guys that are lost right now, it's just really hard. And, I think you're right about, the Spurs, they do set guys and they still are able to win games some nights. But those guys that are out there on those nights that, maybe a Ginobili or a Parker or Duncan sits, they're out there with the knowledge that those guys are going to be back the next night, or they're going to be back, the next couple nights. So the whole idea of being out there and, it's sort of I would think a charge, a thrill that, hey, we get to play while those guys are gone. I think there's got to come a point for these guys now that are saying, man, this is just a grind, and we're going to be without these guys for a few more games. I think mentally and physically that has to be wearing on these guys a little bit.
Barry, you brought up the word indictment. What do the charges read against Scott Brooks after this stretch?
Well, I mean, we can just look at the 3 of the last 4 games. I mean, Reggie Jackson is the main man now. He's the quarterback of this team until Westbrook gets back. 3 of the last 4 games, the Thunder is with a chance to tie or take the lead. He's taken either a poor shot or a shot that you knew he was going to take. And this system of ball movement and this system of, hey, we're really going to have this new philosophy of moving the ball around, even with Durant and Westbrook, should even be more in place without them. But with them, it all breaks down, and he just goes one-on-one and jacks up a shot. So, two times in the last 3 games, Scott Brooks says this is a learning experience. Well, the first one was not a learning experience because nothing was learned. Maybe Reggie learned something from last night, but certainly not from that Houston game.
We're bringing Darnell Mayberry, who just got back from Denver. Darnell, we're talking.
Can I ask a question first?
Ask away.
Hey, Barry, is it a bad hair day or something?
Let me look. I have not looked at myself in a minute. Let me look. No, it's all right.
I think I can confirm it is.
All right. I was just checking.
Weisenheimer. Darnell, we're talking about Scott Brooks. Barry brings indictments against Scott Brooks, saying that it's the last stretch, or the 3-10, and especially how they've played the last 3 games, is an indictment of the system and of the coach. Do you agree?
No, I don't agree. I mean, this system, this system and this coach were both looking great in the preseason when most of the guys were healthy. You remember Mitch McGary stepped in and looked great offensively in the scrimmage and also in his first and only preseason game. Then he suffered the broken foot. Kevin Durant and Steven Adams had chemistry on the side pick and roll. Russell Westbrook was making Steven Adams look like a borderline all-star sooner rather than later. They had chemistry. Reggie Jackson didn't play much because of injuries as well, but he also looked good coming off the bench and when he had to play. So, I thought the things looked great before all these injuries start to take a toll, but now that they're here, there's nothing you can do about it. I don't think you can blame Scott Brooks or the system. They're starting Lance Thomas at small forward.
Lance Thomas and Sebastian Telfair have taken the 3rd and 4th most shots on this team this year.
Still yet, Anthony.
Phil Jackson.
Maybe that's an indictment of Scott Brooks.
No, it's just
Phil
what the
Jackson
roster
couldn't
is.
win with that.
It's just what the roster is. I mean, who's going to take the shots?
How about your man Steven Adams? Get him more shots.
I mean,
I do agree with that.
At Utah, offense. RFD wrote about it. Offense is going great. They're dumping it into the post. Adams is scoring. Perk is scoring. They get up 17, and then what? For 2.5 quarters, they don't dump it into the post.
I was going to ask you, Anthony, we've seen the offense, especially last night, a little bit late in the game in Utah. The offense seemed to be Reggie Jackson dribble until one of the post guys run out there and try to set that windshield wiper pick and roll on them. That didn't work. Also, the any kind of movement, the movement is throw the ball to one of the post players on the wing and do a handoff. I understand that you're limited in your assets, but do you have to be limited in how you try to apply them? What is it necessarily that you can't have any ball movement just because Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook aren't around?
I just think people are in spots they're just not naturally in. I mean, Darnell just mentioned it. Lance Thomas is your starting small forward. He's not a small forward. He's a power forward. There's just guys in spots, in ball movement spots that they're not used to. Everyone's knocked up 2 pegs at least, 3 in some cases. I just think it's a tough job. It's tough to learn on the run, and it's finally catching up to them. And, they're just losing games that we kind of always thought they were going to be losing.
Okay, let's switch gears on this a little bit. The player who's had the most to gain, who has gained the most, profited most, shined the most with KD and Westbrook out. Jenny, I'm going to come to you first on this one.
I think it's probably Serge Ibaka. He has had a couple rough patches here, and there's probably some that would say they'd want to see more. I would probably agree to some extent, and yet I think we've seen him do some things that we hadn't before. So I think he's probably the guy I would say has most shown, but Could it be more? Yes. Should it be more? Maybe. Will it be more when those other two guys get back, those other two stars get back? I think there's a good chance of that.
Darnell, it's really hard to pick out a winner out of this. The team is playing poorly, but is there one individually?
Yeah, and he's got a phantom knee injury. His name's Perry Jones.
Yep.
He did the most for this team while he was healthy, and all of a sudden he goes down with what they call a knee contusion, and he's missed 7, 8, 9 games now, and doesn't know when he's going to be back. So I think it's Perry Jones, and that's more. It says a lot about Perry Jones, but I think it says more about what the other guys have not done.
Barry, is there a winner in your mind?
Oh, Sebastian Telfair is a big winner. He's gotten to play a ton, and he wouldn't have played much at all. And he's had some dud games, but he's had some really good games too. And I think he's proven to the world that he can play in the NBA. I think he's the big winner.
How about yours, Anthony?
I would have gone with what Darnell was saying. I mean, Perry Jones, I think was. But how about Kendrick Perkins? Some people are passing him the ball. He's suddenly become like a.
Whoa, Mike, are you gonna let this happen?
He's suddenly become a legit option, legit offensive option, which I don't know if he would have played much early in the season. Now he looks like a solid backup center in the NBA.
I thought Darnell was the one who'd spent the last day or so at altitude. Anthony, are you feeling okay?
I think their center position is fine. I think both players are playing well. I think the center is going to be a great job. I'm not in the mood of discussing who's better with Mike right now.
It's the best. Right now, center is the best position on this team.
Yeah.
Yep, easily.
Barry, who's lost the most with Westbrook and Durant out, and up to and including the last stretch last week?
I think Reggie Jackson's lost a lot because this was his time to shine. And frankly, he's had some moments where he's carried the team and done well, but he's also not proven to be, the bell cow that he sort of thinks he is. So I think he's sort of dropped back a little bit.
Darnell, it's on every other Thursday with us and Reggie. Last week you signed up in the Reggie Defense squad. I remember a piece you wrote about him having a bullseye on his back the week before, which was all I was reacting to. Now, of course, last week you defended him. This week, not strong. Bad shot selection late in the game at Denver. Not a strong game at all at Utah. Is Reggie the biggest loser?
This week, yeah. But I think this is just the way it goes when a team is 3-10 that expected to be a 55, 60-win team competing for a championship. This is just what you see. There's going to be a public enemy number one every single loss. And Reggie Jackson right now is public enemy number one. His comments that he made at the start of the season and going back to the end of last season really didn't do him any favors or put him in a good position. Now the fans, I think, are holding that against him, but I don't think it's nearly as bad as people are making it out to be. It's only been 4 games. He did have opportunities to either tie the game or win the game for his team. They didn't fall. Guess what? Kevin Durant went through that too. I'm not saying Reggie Jackson is Kevin Durant. I'm just saying I think he's a really good player, and I just think he's going through a rough stretch right now while he's learning to adapt to more defensive attention.
Jenny, I'll move it along. I was doing some math, which is always dangerous, but I looked at it this way. The Thunder is a team that's played 700 ball mostly the last 3 or 4 years with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook in the lineup, and that's what it's going to need to play to reach 50 wins, which seems to be something that would guarantee him a spot in the Western Conference playoffs. When Westbrook and Durant return, is it fair to think that this squad, adding those 2 superstars, is going to do that again?
I would think so. I don't know why not. I mean, obviously, you're looking at some guys who are probably going to be reserves that are playing a lot of minutes, but they're going to get those minutes curtailed. So, some of that physical and mental strain that they've been under is going to revert back to sort of the normal. Obviously we can't know for sure with Durant and Westbrook, exactly how they'll be when they do come back. But to this point, when the Thunder's had players come back from injury, they've generally come back full strength, in good shape, ready to go. Maybe had some rust, but knock it off pretty quick. So, I could see those guys coming back, jumping in, and being effective right away. And I think what it was either Darnell or Anthony earlier said, in the preseason, when these guys had more of a full complement, and you saw that ball movement offense and the way that they were playing then, looked fantastic, looked really good, looked really promising. And frankly, I don't know why, once you got all those guys back, that they wouldn't be able to do what we saw them do in the preseason.
Barry, the next 10 games, it looks like 10 more games without Westbrook and Durant. If they go those 10 games and 3-7 or whatever, if it continues sort of at this pace, the need to get to 50 would be play 750 ball or 800 ball. Is there a point of no return looming when the Thunder's playoff hopes look really dim or maybe less realistic?
Well, I wouldn't go asking these guys to play 800 ball, for crying out loud. That's some serious winning. So 750's pretty high stakes. 700's where you want to be. That's why if they can just get to 6 wins, if they can just get to 6-14, I think they'll be all right. But every game that passes against a beatable team makes it going to be harder. Now, the schedule coming up is incredibly light. If they don't, if they pass the baton to Durant and Westbrook and the record is something like 4-18, well, that's totally absurd. And that's just a franchise that just didn't get it done. But if they can go 6-14, 7-15, something like that, I think they're going to be okay.
And under those, that thought process, Anthony, it seems like this 4-game homestand that'll take them through the holidays becomes a lot more crucial than maybe we thought it would be.
I'd go deeper than just this 4-game homestand, because then they have a 3-game road trip, which is at New Orleans, who's a team they may be battling for, 8 seed type stuff, and then Detroit and Philadelphia, Philadelphia is really a team that this team should be able to beat, and then the Pistons. So that's 7 games, and I think if you go beyond that, they get Milwaukee back here in Oklahoma City. I think the next 10-ish games are very important. And I think by the end of maybe even the end of this homestand into that first road trip in December that I'm talking about, Westbrook's going to be back before people realize. He's already shooting with his right hand. He's in great shape because he's been working out every day because it's just a hand injury. I think he'll be back before people realize. And then once you get him back, I think you can beat almost any team on any night.
Anthony, staying with you, what are the odds? What are the odds that both Westbrook and Durant are back before Christmas?
Me, I think Westbrook 100%, he's going to be back before Christmas. I think Durant's high percentage too. I'm thinking he's probably that Cleveland game. He's already hopping on the feet around, and they know it's becoming – they're not going to rush him back, but they know it's becoming a situation where, hey, they need to get them back right when they can get back. I'm thinking Durant right around December 11th, that Cleveland game, maybe the game before against Milwaukee.
Lance Thomas, Jenny, has been a player that Scott Brooks has lauded, a hustle guy. His shooting sure has suffered, and it's a guy, but he's in the starting lineup every night. What are the odds he's still with the team once Durant, Westbrook, and the Cavalry returns?
Well, I mean, I would say probably pretty high. I know that, now obviously with that exception or whatever exemption that they got Ish Smith with, that puts him over the 15 limit. But, they seem to they like Lance Thomas. He's done for who he is and what he can do. He's, I don't know if he's maxed it out or not, but seems like he's coming pretty close. And with all these injuries, I'm sure they're a little gun shy. I mean, I would think that they'd probably want to have a full complement of 15 if they're able, and I would say they would be. So I'd say he probably sticks around.
Hey, Barry, the Thunder is home for the holidays, as I said, a 4-game stretch. It takes them through Thanksgiving, and now there's word from season ticket holders that the team is calling them, asking them if they're not going to use their tickets, would they be kind enough to donate them to the Boys or Girls Club or some other charity? What do you think of that move, and is that a sign of what?
Oh, I think it's just a preemptive strike. There's no great body of evidence that the Thunder is a bunch of no-shows. I mean, we were having a sort of a winter storm Sunday night, and most of the seats were full. So I don't think anybody's ready to bail. And my impression is most season ticket holders, if they don't go, they do get their tickets into somebody's hands because they know how much people enjoy it. So I don't know if the Thunder senses that the fans are restless, but I think it's more of a preemptive strike and just sort of an insurance policy. I don't know that it's completely necessary.
Hey, this is a little bit anecdotal, obviously, but my husband has tickets, so he can go to games, and we had tickets for this Friday. We couldn't go. We put out the all call on Facebook, and within about 5 minutes, we'd sold the tickets, which frankly is faster than lots of times. So people are still interested and willing to pay to go, and I think Barry's right. I think that there may be some restlessness, but I don't get the sense like people are jumping off the ship just yet.
Jenny, we'll stay with you, and I think I've buried the lead. Kevin Durant's latest endorsement. He signs a deal with OKC-based Sonic, but not Maryland-based Under Armour. Anything? Are we going to read some tea leaves into this?
He tried to sign with Under Armour. He had to go back tonight.
I feel like this question should go to Barry, his undoubted love of Sonic, for crying out loud. Barry, you want the first dibs on this one?
Barry was part of the recruiting process, probably.
Why hasn't Sonic come to me as a spokesman? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, good
is there
question.
anybody in America that's a better salesman for Sonic than me? The answer is no.
They already know they're getting free services. They don't need to pay you.
Well, that's a good point, AC. I ought to hire you as my agent. And then after you get me a deal, I can fire you, just the way that Durant did his agent.
Here's how much Barry loves Sonic. Barry has some sort of weird sixth sense. Have you ever been in the car, Anthony, when he's gone to needed to find a Sonic? It's almost like he has some homing beacon in his head that like directs him to where the Sonic actually is. It's a little bit scary.
Well,
It's not mystical. I just know where they all are.
I have been in the car when we didn't get off on an exit when there was a Sonic, and he was not pleased.
I've got to tell you, the whole announcement about Durant and Sonic, what did it come about 9:30 this morning? I've been wanting a Diet Cherry Limeade ever since.
And he
happy hour started when the hangout started.
I know. Can we wrap this up so I can get going, please?
Sounds like a great idea. That's all for this edition of Thunder Thursday on News OK Live, but you can stay with the best coverage team every day at News OK and every morning in the Oklahoman. Remember, Thunder Thursdays are sponsored by our good friends at Wheeler Chevrolet. Take the drive down I-40, save time and money.